I should have my volume on before I start. Welcome to the Rescue Michigan unusual daytime unannounced live stream. But today we're going to be talking about the strange case of Vem Miller, who, of course, was the individual that was arrested at the Trump rally in Coachella the other day. And then all of a sudden, stories started to come out. In fact, here's one right here. This is from Raheem Kassam at the National Pulse. Armed Coachella rally goer Vem Miller is pro-Trump independent reporter, not a would-be assassin. Well, case closed, or is it? Let's take a closer look at some of these things, guys. So we'll look at just the basic story, but we're going to really look at in depth here is Vem Miller went out with a 75-minute statement, and we'll be watching it at an increased speed because it is very rambling, very repetitive, and also pretty demented. And I have some questions about his story. So we will hear his story. But first, this is how this is covered from the National Pulse, which is, I think, edited by Raheem Kassam. For those who don't know, here's Raheem on X. And it says, here's the notice they gave Vem Miller. I have redacted personal details. They do not cite him for any fake documentation / passports / license plates. He signed, quote, under duress. As I said in our article at the National Pulse, I know Vem personally and believe this to be a policing error. Well, we'll see how that claim holds up in just a moment, shall we? But here is also the copy of the citation. And here you can see, indeed, he signed it under duress. You can't really read what the charges are very easily. I can't zoom in very well, but it does seem to say possession of a firearm, possession of a high-capacity magazine, which are the two charges he got. He was in California, where they don't allow full capacity, aka standard capacity magazines. You have to use low capacity magazines in California because they weaken the ability for you to defend yourself. I guess under California law, I'm not an expert in California firearms law. I'm not surprised it's atrocious. So he had a handgun, a Glock handgun, and a shotgun, which shotguns usually aren't the most regulated of firearms. But it's California, so who knows? Anyway, never mind that for the time being. We are going to go to
Miller of the America Happens.
I didn't mean to have it start right off the bat there. This will go full screen in just a second. I did record this yesterday, so it will be sped up in just a moment, but in the very first few moments here, you'll see some of that framing around that. So anyway, but hopefully that's not too cumbersome. It will get bigger and better, and we will hopefully not pause it too much as we go through this. But we should watch this whole thing because this is what he came out with extemporaneously. And by the way, I guarantee you when he gets a lawyer, the lawyer's going to say, take that video down now. But it's, of course, much too late for that. The video's already been posted. I'm not the only one that's recorded it, I am sure. But here we go. Let's see what he claims about what the real story is. Here we go.
I'm releasing this statement.
Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear it okay.
Of the false information that is currently being released by the police department, I believe, of Palm Desert, Indio, Coachella.
Okay, he's claiming the police have released false information.
And I will state that what I'm about to tell you is 100% true and accurate. The body cams and the surveillance footage in the police station, as well as all the evidence at hand, will reflect that indeed what I'm saying
I can't wait to see it.
True and accurate. I'm choosing to do it this way
because, it'll be after the
frankly,
election,
I've gotten,
fortunately.
I don't know, 100 calls in the last 2 hours, hour and a half since these false and defamatory statements have been released by the police authorities in this region.
Again, he's making very clear he's accusing the police of falsely accusing him.
You know, let me start it off by saying this. So my name is Vem Miller. I am one of the partners at the America Happens Network, which is americahappens.com.
There's a lot of self-promotion in this video too, guys. You just have to bear with that. It will be sped up shortly.
Some of our stories and exposés have been going viral, but I never thought that the most explosive story would involve myself.
By the way, let me know in the chat if you guys can't hear him, even when I'm not talking over him.
Circulating across the internet.
I promise you're not
I'm
missing anything
currently
when
in
you're talking.
a cheap motel room, and I'll explain why I'm in a cheap motel room.
There's a lot of sob story here
in a second. So, I run the America Happens Network with my partners.
I might even have to skip over
And
some
as a
of this.
part of that, we've been integrally involved in our passion, which is protection of our constitutional rights, including freedom of press, freedom of speech, Second Amendment. And while the Constitution in its entirety is near and dear to our heart, that is our primary agenda. While we are currently, and we have been for close to 8 years, staunch supporters of President Donald Trump, we don't align ourselves with any political party except for one that supports our freedoms, our constitutional rights.
Aaron's Roger, getting
our
ahead of me a little
medical
bit here, buddy.
freedoms,
These videos of these
and
sovereign
gets rid of
citizens
the
being pulled over by
tyranny of
police are
corrupt
hysterical.
politicians
They are
that
so
is plaguing
delusional.
our
Yes, we are
nation.
getting to that. He will.
So to be very clear, that
You
is
will.
our
You will love
number
it when he denies that he's a member of the
agenda.
sovereign citizen movement too. It's
In
very
that,
funny in a very horribly and
The
sad way.
president,
But we'll see.
President Donald Trump has been near and dear to our hearts because he's one of the only individuals that I've seen have the courage to actually stand up to this tyranny against we the people. In 2022, I ran for office in Nevada as a Republican. Since
I like how he says,
I've been involved.
that's like an afterthought. As a Republican, like that was a label I put on myself so I could win the election. Presumably, is what he was thinking. He doesn't really think he's a Republican. He thinks he's something different altogether.
It is with that I decided to come to Coachella after receiving a special invitation from members of the Nevada Republican Party. I was scheduled to drive from Los Angeles to
Notice it doesn't give the
Coachella,
name of the individual.
where I arrived at 3 p.m. on October 12th, 2024. At 3 p.m., once I arrived to Coachella, I was told to go towards a special entrance where there's parking. Prior to entering the parking lot area, I did what I always do, which is that, and there's much evidence of this, if you ask around Nevada police officers, well, I will fully transparently let them know that in the trunk of my car, I carry 2 firearms. One is a Glock, one is a shotgun. And these 2 firearms that I carry with me are simply for protection, because what happened in 2022, which again is verifiable, is that once we started producing a lot of content for the America Happens Network, content that focuses on basically peeling back on this tyranny, returning power to we the people, returning our constitutional rights, and most dear to my heart, freedom of press, because I've been a member of the media since 1994. I have a long history as a director,
I told you guys there's a lot of rambling here.
executive producer. That topic became very important to me because I got to see the inner workings of how the media works. And after being in this industry for close to 30 years, I did not like what I was seeing. I did not like the sense.
Okay, he's going to ramble on for a while here about his personal development and how he came to have a Glock and a shotgun in his trunk, which basically is, I'm a big patriot and I love my country and this is my amazing political journey, which, you know, to a lot of people, this sounds great. Like, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. I care about the First Amendment. I care about the Second Amendment.
Of what I call cancel culture 1.0.
The thing that you guys have to understand about folks like this is it's not just that this is their passion. It's that this is also their pleasure. This is a fun thing to do. I'm going to go around the country, man, and I'm going to film Trump and film politics like that Jacob Chansley guy that got arrested at the Capitol. These are tourists, folks. They might make a little money here and there, but they're doing it for fun.
Their lives and minds ruined because, like I've said, I've been producing content, documentaries, music videos, commercials, TV shows, you name it, since 1994. And so, in response to this cancel culture, in response to our oppression of speech,
these are all just things he's saying to get you on his side. For me personally, like, I don't care about any of this stuff.
On MySpace.
Tell me why you had guns in your trunk when you were going to see the Trump rally.
About it out of all these groups, and I have to admit that earlier on I was more of a Democrat, having been raised in LA and Hollywood, and frankly, I will admit that I simply was not well educated at that juncture. My eyes were not open to what was going on. My reaction to the cancel
I came from a liberal
culture
background too. We all had our moment.
era of George W. Bush really caused me to think, oh, the Democrats are, the good guys. They're the ones that are gonna,
Okay, I never really thought
not
that.
oppress our
I was not a
speech,
fan of the
and
Republicans
Barack
back in those
Obama
days
came
either.
by with hope and all that stuff, and at that time I thought, he might be somebody that's going to save us from these policies and cronyism of the George W. Bush administration.
I wasn't fooled for 1 second by Barack Obama. Okay, well,
going to a lot of the
you know.
Iraq War peace rallies, marches, Occupy Wall Street. And
You
really,
get a picture of this
that
guy
time,
yet,
I was
guys?
filming content,
Before he was
sharing
a
it
Trump activist, he
on
was an
platforms,
anti-war
frankly,
left-wing
that are no
activist.
longer around.
Went to all these rallies.
But the evidence of that exists, that as of 2007, the America Happens brand was officially on record as having been coined. And I was on the Young Turks discussing one of our
He was on the Young Turks.
episodes of content.
Young Turks is a wildly retarded
From there
left-wing show.
Came my political awakening. Around 2015, 2016, I started becoming very fond of.
So he missed the whole Ron Paul movement.
President Trump.
An anti-war
Because I
activist.
saw him as somebody that
Here's where I start
was
speeding it up.
tough
Somebody, this guy's
and willing to
rambling
stand
on
up against this
forever.
nonsense. And I'll be honest with you, I paid a very, very steep price for that. Very steep price, because I left Hollywood, where I was making a six-figure salary, to
A lot
essentially
of poor me
produce
stuff.
content on a dime that exposes
I
what
could
is
have been
happening in our
rich.
country, how our officials abuse their power for their own financial gain, of how they want to.
Yeah, tell me, buddy. I've been a software
freedoms
engineer.
in order to enrich themselves. And so, I would say that by 2018, I was all in with Trump, what he was doing, and the direction he was taking this country. That man inspired
By the
me.
way, I don't think this is inauthentic. I think he's telling his
And I thank
his
our
truth
former
here, let's
president,
call
and
it.
hopefully future president, for being man enough to stand up and show what courage looks like. And so in 2020, I relaunched the America Happens Network, which was docile pretty much since 2008, because I had foolishly drank the Barack Obama Kool-Aid and thought that his words of hope and change meant, hope for a non-military industrial complex dominated world. And I thought change meant changing those policies that had resulted in our natural and financial resources
nonsense.
being depleted.
I don't think he's insincere. I do think he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Mr. Barack Obama.
But we'll see where he's
Because
going with this.
His presidency proved that the hope and change he was talking about is not the hope and
He was
change.
at the RNC. He got picked with
And
V.
the
But yeah, this
specificity
guy,
of
like I
somebody
said, he's a
Trump,
tourist. He
as
goes to
opposed
all the
using
events.
These like esoteric words or whatever you call it, these kind of blanket statements that, hope and change could mean a lot of things. And apparently change meant change to divisiveness under Obama. I believe that President Donald Trump.
I should have put it at double speed.
1 second, I gotta get water. And so.
Going for his water. He'll tell you about the water situation in a minute.
2022, inspired by the work of President Trump and his courage, I ran for office in Nevada. And funny enough, as a candidate that really was an unknown entity, I went and knocked on doors nonstop. I think if people look at my campaign,
and you're getting ahead of me again, buddy. Yes, he says he's been to P. Diddy's party. He's been at videos with $30,000. In fact, is the number. I didn't get to that. We will cover that.
Doors, I would say up to 10,000. I haven't looked at the statistics, but I made quite a name for myself for
more poor me stuff. He ran for office, knocked on 10,000 doors.
Well-known candidates. One was supported by the at that point the incumbent leaving office because he had served his last term. And
third in the field of three, Aaron?
Both that had much deeper
If I had to guess,
name recognition than
we'll see. I haven't looked it
I
up.
was successful in garnering about 22% of the vote in an area when 31% was a winning margin. I did not win, but I think I ran a very respectful and credible campaign, because as an unknown entity going up against these two much better known
blah blah. Poor me.
That was actually a very surprising amount and had me within striking range of the win. And I believe that really it was my lack of finances. Now I've understood the importance of postcards and how important they are to, getting to the elderly who do not necessarily do the social media thing, do not do the digital thing. And frankly, I just didn't. I had great supporters, and I thank these supporters who I'm sure are going to see this.
Yep.
You know who you are. I don't know if you.
Voters usually like to vote for the candidate they feel like is the most normal. I have a feeling this guy had difficulty conveying that.
I didn't raise enough money to do 3-4 cycles of postcards, which I believe would have secured 8 to 9% of the elderly vote.
He's still going on about why he lost his race.
Purely the work that I did was not.
I don't care about that, Mr. Miller. I care about why you have firearms in your trunk.
Running for office, I put all my energies to the America Happens Network, for which I was already producing content at that juncture, most primarily my Blood Money podcast. which I believe we started in
Juncture is one of his
2020. So the
favorite
America Happens
vocabulary
documentary
words.
series,
He'll
we
use it
started
all the
around
time.
the mid-2000s, dating back to 2005, verifiable from the interview I did with the Young Turks talking about the America Happens Network and our first episode of content, which went viral on MySpace at the time.
So this
And
is
so
now, he's
after
talking
I
about
took office,
2020.
put all my energies
He
into
says he's a
America Happens
Trumpster. He's
Network. And the
appearing
goal of
on the
America
Young
Happens Network was
Turks
to create
network.
essentially a network that would be the 2.0 to the 1.0 version that I felt was deeply flawed for the reasons that I've already stated. And so in putting all our energies in this, and I speak about my partners in the company as well, who have been nothing but an inspiration to me, who have provided me with support I just never had in terms of being a truth teller, being a truth seeker while I was working as a Hollywood producer. And
So he's a truther.
we
Okay.
started putting all our energies in this America Happens Network. We've launched thus far 14 shows. Really, the goal of the America Happens Network is to redefine what a network can be in what I call America 2.0. And America 2.0 is the restoration of our
here we
constitutional
go.
rights, freedom of press, true freedom of press, not
More of his
propaganda
political
freedom of
philosophy.
press, but true
This will
freedom
come
of
into
press.
bearing when he starts talking
And
about the
so
sovereign citizen stuff.
in
But it just
putting
gets
all our
kind of
energies, we
repetitive and
produced 14 different shows, and I
annoying
will
at
get
this
to the
point.
controversy that currently exists. I need to get this background story so you understand where I'm coming from. And again, everything that I've stated is verifiable.
He says this over and over again. Everything I say is verifiable. Some of this stuff is not so easy to verify, but he keeps saying this.
Where every piece of
But
the puzzle presents a different
the prosecutors are probably going to
So our
verify
Blood
all of these
podcast,
things.
This includes the America Happens documentary series, where every episode we expose what is really happening out there. We give voices to people that have been voiceless, that have been ignored by the mainstream media. This includes the Conspiracy Truths documentary series that Mindy Robinson does, my business partner. She did the Route 91 documentary, which exposes
The Conspiracy Truths guys.
shooting. A story
They're
that's
not
still
conspiracy
alive. And I
theories,
mentioned
they're
2 weeks ago that
conspiracy
Ron
truths.
DeSantis made a statement that, we never figured out what happened in Las Vegas with that shooting. And that's why he wanted to research and investigate the Trump assassination attempt, because he didn't trust the given authorities to do it properly. And I credit the amazing, talented, and wonderful Mindy Robinson for keeping that story alive. And a little bit of background on,
Oh yeah,
why I think
Mindy
she's so
Robinson.
great as a
She's
Hollywood
the
producer.
she is the one that
And
kept
knowing
that
how much money
story
Patriot
alive,
takes to
ladies and
produce, and knowing
gentlemen.
the ungodly amounts of money that they spent. And by the way, if you research me again, you'll find that I was a music video director professional music video director between 2001 and 2008, having directed music videos for people like DMX, Where the Hood At, John Mayer Say, about 100 music videos. Worked with John, what do you call it?
So
Trey
impressive.
Songz. Worked with, believe it or not, Jerry Seinfeld for the.
He has
music
given
video.
so much, ladies and
Worked with
gentlemen.
individuals like Chris Brown.
He has
Did live
sacrificed
shows with,
his career for
rock
our
bands like
for our
Guns N'
country.
Roses. Then I started
We owe
in
him such a
2008
debt,
creating and
folks.
selling TV shows for networks like
We owe him our
Disney
trust.
Channel,
In fact,
Discovery,
you think about all the
MTV,
things he said.
Netflix,
He's a
and again, I
patriot.
have contracts
He gave away
with
his
to verify
career for his
everything I've said is accurate
patriotism.
and true. And that's
It would
more or
be
less my
it would be
background. But now
shameful
in
of us
2022, we
to
start
question
producing
his story.
all these different shows, including another show, AHN News Live, Uncensored News, which Corinne Clifford heads, including AHN Music, which is a top 5 TRL-like countdown.
Remember, it was like
music
several
videos having to
minutes
do
ago
with, not negative things.
when he
and
was
it's not
when he was
necessarily
talking
Christian-based
about.
music
Let me
videos,
tell you why I had
music
guns in
videos
my
that
trunk.
are
He still hasn't gotten to that.
thoughtful and my version of what I call, there's the social justice word has been bastardized, and it's my version. That's what we're doing with AHN Music Top 5 Countdown. Is to simply present these uplifting voices. Some of it's wholesome, some of it's more about just talking about what's really happening out there, and really
Gotta flip
avoiding
the
all
tape over in a
dismissive,
second,
raunchy
guys.
nonsense for music videos that I had to really torture myself writing concepts to, hearing these foul lyrics, hearing these poisonous lyrics that poison our children, put bad thoughts in their heads about drugs and drinking pharmaceuticals and getting high. I mean, I know which artists that I'm referring to. And so that's
DMX. You mentioned DMX earlier.
That, we've had multiple different shows. We've had a show called Medicine Cabinet. We've had a show called Meet the Frontline Doctors. Both those shows are geared towards showing really the truth that the medical industrial complex tries to hide. And for example, on those shows, we've had episodes on ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine.
All right, we got to flip the tape over now. I had to pause the video for a moment there. I think because I had to get up for some reason yesterday. We'll get to side 2. Side 2 is longer. However, thankfully, it is all sped up. It is not, and none of it is at single speed because that was pretty tedious. But this guy clearly is a Renaissance man. He is a jack of all trades. He is an expert in video direction. He knows medicine. He knows deep history, politics. He is truly an American jack of all trades, an expert at all these things. So go to his website, which he talks about constantly, and you'll get those conspiracy truths from him because, there's nobody better to get your conspiracy truths from than this fella. Anyway, let's let him continue. Maybe he is eventually going to have to explain why he has a loaded Glock and a shotgun in his trunk. Let's see.
and things that could have been very helpful for our populations that unfortunately we're given things like remdesivir and
no, still going.
ventilators
He's still going about his
seem to cause
truths.
nothing but death and carnage. And interviewing people like, for example, Scott Shara,
But there's a reason he's doing all this,
interviewing
folks.
people like Dr. Peter
It's
McCullough,
to
who
get
had
you
the
on
stats
his
to show
side.
that what was happening was destructive to this nation.
That's the setting the
And again,
table
check
here
out
is all about.
AmericaHappens.com.
I'm a patriot.
Check
I'm
out
just
the
like you
800 pieces
guys.
of content that we've done, and you will see over and over
And,
again that our agenda was nothing
you know,
but
this has been a
exposing,
terrible mix-up.
revealing,
I'm a
confronting the things
victim,
that the
and
mainstream media
you'll
does not
wait to
cover,
get to the end.
right?
It's
So in the
great.
spirit of that, I became more involved after 2022, after I ran for office, in using documentary
Okay, we're in
content
2022.
and
His
other
life story
forms
is
of
surely coming
content
to an
and
end soon.
to really follow this agenda of building the network 2.0 for America 2.0.
We'll look at who
Because
he's building
really
his
what I'm
network
hoping
with in a minute too, by
our
the way. But
former
let's let
president
him
and hopefully
say his
future president
piece.
will do is restore America, bring back our 2.0, or you could call it 3.0.
Yes,
depending
Aaron,
upon how
he
you
was
look on
terminated by
history, but the
America's
idea being
America's
that
frontline
this
doctors. Yeah,
nonsense
they
propaganda that's been so
literally
destructive
the
to
memo
people,
says,
America
"Don't let this
Happens,
guy
the
anywhere
America Happens
near
network
us."
is dedicated to forming a
I
new
would pause the
paradigm
video and
for the
bring
future
some
of
of this
media
stuff
and
up,
what a
but
network could be.
I don't want to
And
lose
so
my
throughout this
place in the
time,
video. So
I
we'll
would
do
say
the
in last
video,
4 years,
then we'll look
I've
at some of these
been to
other
a number
things,
of
Aaron.
Trump rallies and Trump events. I have been, and this is again verifiable, pretty much this far away from the former president to a point that I could touch him. I've talked to Don Jr., I've talked to Eric Trump. I know a lot of people within the Trump family and the extended family.
He's a name dropper
And I
too.
have been integrally involved.
Imagine my shock. I can't believe he's
And
the name
again,
dropper.
America Happens is not a political entity. I mean, Mindy and
So
I
guys,
describe ourselves as libertarians, to be
I
frank with
saw
you.
Laura Trump
Much
the
more
other day
libertarian than
in
anything else.
Detroit.
But
It was this
individuals
far
like
away
President
from
Trump
me.
is
I could have
outspoken
gotten
about we the
closer, but I
people and
chose
protecting
not
our
to.
rights. And sorry, I'm looking at the window, by the way, because to be honest with you, as you'll find out, I am worried about my safety right now, and for multiple reasons, because the people that screwed up hard, and I'm sure they'd want nothing else but for me to disappear, because as you'll find out, they put themselves in a bit of a pickle, I guess you could say.
Hey, wait, hold on. Say that again. Say that again. I'm going to go back. What? Say that one more
By the
time.
way, because to be honest with you, as you'll find out, I am worried about my safety right now, and for multiple reasons, because the people that screwed up
The people that screwed up.
hard, and I'm sure they'd want nothing else but for me to disappear, because
Is he trying to say the cops are going to come after him again? the cops that gave him the ticket and released him, they're going to come after him again, or they're going to do assassinate him? This guy thinks he's assassination worthy material. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about somebody else that wants him to be silent.
as you'll find out, they put themselves in a bit of a pickle, I guess you could say. So, full force with America Happens, going to Trump rallies, covering Trump rallies, being very close with individuals in the Trump extended family, multiple individuals. And if I was to guesstimate, and this is again verifiable, I'm sure the Trump campaign has records of all the guest passes they've issued me, the special passes they've issued me. I mean, we're talking about potentially, I don't know, 20 something more. I don't even remember. All I know is there's been so many occasions where I could literally do this and touch the president. He's been so close to me, and the people close to him, pictures with the people close to him. I mean, you could go on my Instagram.
See, guys, I could have attached him anytime I wanted to.
On my Twitter, not Vem Miller, called not Vem Miller, because I still haven't had my Vem Miller account back, because apparently I was posting too much medical misinformation and misinformation about the press. Anybody that wants to watch America Happens series, which there's 10 episodes of, will find a long history of that dating back to 2000.
There's only 10 episodes of your series?
When I first started doing that. And
bro, I've got like 400 episodes of my show.
The Democrats are the good guys, the Republicans are the bad guys, because of my experiences under the George W. Bush administration, to then becoming an adamant and passionate supporter of our former and hopefully future president, Donald Trump. Who, by the way, I should note that I met the president on multiple occasions. First time I met him was the Blade premiere. I believe it was Blade 2 or Blade 3 in New York City.
Patty asked why I missed the beginning. Why don't you believe him? Well, we're getting to that part. He is still babbling on, but I want to play this whole video, get his whole story. I think a lot of it's sincere. A lot of it's also somewhat crazy, somewhat obsessive, somewhat bizarre, but I'll get to why I don't believe him when he gets to that point, which he's eventually coming to, I hope pretty soon.
Spoke with him. He was definitely very cool. Later on, I worked with a gentleman who was making the president's aircraft, an interior company. And in order to show you that this is also true, I know that company is located in Ronkonkoma. I have multiple phone conversations with the individual that runs that company. I have multiple pieces of evidence that show that I was in business with that gentleman creating a TV show while he was working on Donald Trump's aircraft. So, incidentally, beyond the presidency cycle,
this is all just
name
dropping.
It's
not any relevance to anything at all.
And his family. Prior to him even running for president, dating back to 1998, I've had physical interactions with President Donald Trump, which frankly helped me to have a positive impression of him, his determination as an individual, and his talents as a
Oh, good.
Especially when you see.
Well, I'm glad that he got to have so many personal interactions with President Trump, because otherwise
he might
not trust him.
Who he hadn't run for office at that time. This was around 2012, 2012 or 2011, and which, by the way, I also have a sizzle reel for that show. It was called Superfly, and it was basically Pimp My Jet. That was the concept of that.
This guy's an
which I shopped around,
egomaniac.
and frankly, it was one of the
He
few
can't
TV
just stop
shows I
talking
wasn't
about
able to sell
himself.
purely because producing a TV show like that.
He's like Hunter S.
too long,
Thompson. He's an American Story.
but it was a sizzle reel that was looked at very favorably.
He needs a
There was lot of
biopic.
interest in that. And again, I can name the individuals that were involved in the interior design information that I would not have, locations that I would not have had I not been integrally involved in the process of making that TV show called Superfly. And so after going to multiple Trump rallies, whenever I'm in a place where there's a Trump rally, I tend to go. This is why I'm pretty sure that I might even be lowballing the number, you know? I think it's around 20 that I've been to. It's probably more. Also, I've been to private events involving the president, involving the president's team like RFK Jr. And so I became a Trump caucus captain as well. And that's also verifiable. I went out and got votes for Donald Trump in the primary, and I'm talking about the primary of 2024, which is also verifiable. I became a Trump leader.
I'm a Trump supporter. Do you believe me now?
Just a week ago.
Do you believe me now? I'm a Trump supporter.
President. And so I've been very involved, and this is why
there's no possible way anybody would, like, you know, go deep cover and really try to be a Republican for a period of months or even years.
I felt that since I have your attention, might as well tell the story as a whole.
Never happened.
And so in 2024, October 12th, 2024,
October 12th, thank God, we're finally about to
I had a special invite to go to the Trump Coachella rally.
From whom?
As somebody who, due to the content I produced, around 2022, I started getting multiple death threats. Okay? Until this point,
Why?
I've never owned a firearm. And
why would anybody care about you?
Were either emailed to me with what I would call heinous pictures depicting violence. Scrabble pieces were mailed to me, one by one, spelling the word dead. And so I became concerned. And many people that are aware.
Do you guys believe this story?
I was getting death threats. Had seen.
He was being mailed Scrabble pieces one by one, spelling the word dead.
So in 2022, I went and bought 2 firearms. I bought a Glock. I bought a shotgun. Until today, it is verifiable and true.
Does shotgun have a brand name too?
These guns have never been fired. I've never been to a shooting range. That is literal. I've never been to a shooting range, and I haven't shot these guns. But purely for protection, I bought these guns. And not only am I a novice when it comes to guns, I guess ignoramus would be a good way to describe it, since I've never shot a gun. I mean, doesn't seem that hard to point and shoot, but I am not I don't have any experience working with guns. And purely for protection, I purchased both these guns. And so prior to October 12th, every time I would go to a Trump rally, and most of these were in Nevada or states that are certainly not California, I would tell the police officers out of courtesy that, hey, you know, my name is Vem Miller. I work closely with the Trump campaign and individuals within the Trump campaign. I'm just letting you know that in the trunk of my car, I have 2 firearms.
Okay, let's stop here. Do you guys believe this story? I was given death threats in the form of letters in the mail that were Scrabble tiles that spelled the letters DEAD. So I went and bought 2 firearms, not just one. I never fired them ever in my life for 2 whole years, and I keep them in my trunk, including keeping the Glock loaded. Patty says yes. Patty, I'm sorry. I think you're crazy. You have to be brain dead to think, okay, to not know a firearm's a deadly weapon. You need to train with it. It's not safe to have around. And if you have never fired a handgun or a shotgun in your life, why would you rely on it to defend your life in a deadly emergency? It's a lot of detail to be made up, because that's how stories go. That's the way stories are. I have never, ever heard of any adult who has owned a firearm and never shot it before. That alone is a first. Now, I can imagine, maybe I can imagine you buy a firearm just so maybe you have it someday. Probably keep it in a safe or hidden somewhere. But to take it with you every day, And, you know, I can tell you, as someone who got into firearms, not as a child, but as an adult, there is a period you go through when at first the gun seems kind of scary, you know, and you think you gotta be really careful with it. And eventually it becomes just another object on your, you know, in your house. When you handle it, of course, you have to be safe. But when it's just sitting there, you know, you don't think about it. But when you first get a firearm for the first time, you don't just throw it in your trunk. And this guy who has a whole podcast, all he's talking about is all of these things he's an expert at. He's an expert on politics and an expert on medicine. And despite admitting, in his past, he was completely misled about things. But, he has a show. He has a show. He thinks he's so smart. He has a show to tell people about things. But he owns guns that he's never shot before. I'm less than a novice, he says. Less than a novice. I was, by the way, I had a great career. I was making a lot of money before I became a Trump supporter. And then I left it all behind to become a Trump supporter, but I didn't have any money in the bank. So, I couldn't afford shooting lessons or, anything else. And the other thing too, folks, by the way, and this might be being me kind of nitpicking a story. I think that's the main reason why this is crazy. But if you're going to only own one gun, probably wouldn't be a shotgun. Handgun, rifle, these are people's first guns. Shotguns, you ever fire a shotgun? If you fired a shotgun, they kick harder than other guns. They might be easy. Okay, they might be easier to shoot. Like if you're, I guess a pump action shotgun might be easier to use than, a rifle with a scope and a sight and all that stuff. But I still find this incredible that he says he travels everywhere. And here's the part that it becomes even more impossible than anything else. I've gone to 20 plus Trump rallies. I get there. I tell him, hey, I'm Trump campaign. I've got guns in my trunk. And nobody ever bothers me. Bullshit. Bullshit. Absolute, complete, and total bullshit. I mean, first off, in Michigan, if you have a gun in any place other than the trunk of your car, or it's safe inside the car, you're carrying. So if you don't say that exact verbiage, it's in my trunk, cops are like, give me your CPL right now. Because you just admitted you're carrying a gun. Yeah, hey officers, I'm just here to Trump rally. I can have my guns with me in my trunk, right? As long as I keep them in my trunk. 20 rallies. Now, he said, and here's the other thing too. He got popped for this in California. He's going to go on for a while about how he didn't know these terrible gun laws in California. Well, how about where were the other states where he went to these 20 Trump rallies in? I mean, I'm sure Trump's come through Nevada a few times, but 20 Trump rallies? How many different state laws was he contending with when he goes to the local cops or the state cops or the Secret Service? And he says, hey, trust me, I got this badge here. And he keeps saying these weird terms that don't make sense. Like, I have a special invitation. What the fuck is a special invitation? You guys ever got, when you guys were at the Republican state convention, you guys get any special, you see any people with special badges? No. You have attendee badges, volunteer badges, staff badges, press badges. There's no special badge, all access badge. He didn't even use those terms. Didn't say all access, didn't say media. No, I have a special badge because I'm special. Yeah, if you're a real American, you know all about California gun laws. Okay, so I'm saying this right now. This guy is lying when he says, I have never shot these guns and I take them with me everywhere I go. And whenever I go to a Trump rally, I tell the cops about the guns I have in my car. Yeah, bloody right. Yeah, right. That is a bullshit story. So he's lying about something. He has spent the past, I think, 20 plus minutes blabbering on about what a great mega patriot he is, and he's documenting the Trump campaign for the world and blah, blah, blah. But he just goes to this Trump rally and tells the cops, as he always does, and never got in trouble before. Hey, officers, just me. I've got my special badge here. I'm part of the Trump people. I've got my my handgun and my shotgun in my trunk. That's safe there. Totally safe and sound, right? No one's going to care about that. Yeah, right. All right. I'm going to put him back on, and let's see what more he has to say for himself. Although, I mean, that is the nexus right there. But let's let him go on because he's got a whole story to tell about his arrest. So here we go.
I'm certainly not going to take these firearms into the actual rally location. And by the way, there's metal detectors and stuff like that. So it's not like that is even possible. But I would clearly tell him that I got in the back of the truck. And the reason I would tell him this is because God forbid somebody broke into my truck or something. I want him to...
Back of the truck, not a trunk, a back of a truck. That means still accessible. That means you are carrying. That means you are carrying without a CPL. That's not legal in, as far as I know, any state except maybe Wyoming. No, that's not true. There's actually several right to carry states, but not all that many.
Aware of what was in there, and it was simply a common courtesy to the police. Furthermore, for anybody that does research on my 2022 campaign, they will see that I was a staunch supporter of the police, and I thought all this defund the police nonsense was purely that it was nonsense, you know. And my point of view on the topic is it's not a matter of defunding the police, but it's a matter of getting rid of the corrupt police officers, just like it's a matter of getting rid of the corrupt government officials.
Yeah, by the way, folks, putting a police sticker on your vehicle doesn't make cops trust you more. It makes them trust you less, because they think you're trying to give them, you're trying to get them to lower their defenses. They don't like that stuff.
Police officers than currently exist. And this, what happened on October 12th, is a prime example of that. And probably the reason that God put me in that situation, in order to be able to expose really what's going on. And so every time I've gone to a Nevada rally and notified the police, it's been a non-issue. They've thanked me for the courtesy of notifying them. They've said, obviously, you can't take your firearms. I wouldn't even think of doing such a stupid thing. And they've been fine. They've been fine. And the critical mistake I made is, I guess, forgetting the location that I was in California. So I drive up with my special entry pass. And by the way, they're saying I had a counterfeit pass. That's a bunch of nonsense. I could prove that I had a special entry pass directed to me, sent
Show it to us. What did it say?
The Republican Party.
Who issued it?
An actual invitee to that event.
What makes it special?
As I'm driving, there's an area where you enter the parking lot after you pass a sheriff. I pull up to the sheriff. I say, you know, well, actually, I should take that back. I'm not 100% sure he was a sheriff. He was wearing a sheriff vest, but a lot of those individuals were. And my assumption is that not everybody.
He was a fake sheriff.
He was trying to indicate that they work with the sheriff's department. And so I drive up to this sheriff, and I tell him that, you know, in full transparency, I just want to let you know,
quote unquote sheriff,
you know, 2 lawful firearms, purchased lawfully, registered lawfully, and I'm just letting you know that that's back there as a courtesy, which is a courtesy that I always do. That police officer asks me to pull over, so I pull over, and just
imagine
so
that
everybody's clear out there. It's not like they found that I had firearms or did an investigation, blah, blah, blah. No. The body cams and the evidence will expose and reveal that I myself drove up to the sheriff and gave him the common courtesy and respect of letting him know about the firearms that I had in the back of my truck. At this point, they make me pull over. A police officer comes to my window. And what I have to say about this particular moment—
Hey, officer, I've also got some crack cocaine in my vehicle. As a courtesy, just letting you know.
And I'm indicating that they behave in a fashion where they seem to not understand the laws and the Constitution. I'm usually more armed and alert, but when I was arriving there, I wasn't feeling well. I have certain health.
Here comes the pity play, guys. I'm sick.
That require me to regulate my blood sugar level and also require me to have basically my water bottle, which I'll put a couple of different supplements in there, that whenever I'm having issues and I feel like my blood sugar is all over the place, I drink some of that stuff and it helps me to regulate it, right? At this moment, I certainly wasn't feeling great. I wasn't at my sharpest. And when this police officer came to my window, I rolled the window down and he asked me to get out of my car. I got out of my car. He asked me to turn around, put my hands behind my back, which is what I did. He handcuffed me at that juncture. I said, why are you handcuffing me? He said he's doing it for his own protection, which, I mean, we could talk about that topic as well, because I don't know ever in the history of humankind where there's been an individual like me that's rolled up and said, I have 2 firearms in my trunk, clearly indicating that I'm not there to cause any problems. I'm not there for anything nefarious.
Yeah, because you just indicated to the cop that you're crazy.
When he's the one with the firearm right then and there. But I complied with him. I complied with him because my impression of most Trump rallies was that the police officers there were respectful of the Constitution and appreciated that I was upfront about the lawful firearms within my car. At this point, they put me in the back of a police car, which is scorching hot. And frankly, I'm feeling faint at this point, and I'm having difficulty speaking. I've been driving for hours, and frankly, I had to go to the bathroom very badly, to the point where it was giving me a headache, and my blood sugar being off, me being in the back of that truck or police car in the scorching heat, which was akin to a sauna, was really causing me health problems, causing me heart palpitations, causing me breathing issues. And they just stuck me back there, closed the door in this sauna-like police car, and it came to a point where I had to start, like,
if you guys think this is anything other than a pity play, wait till the end of this. He tells you what he's going to do and how much money he's going to get from the cops. This is all his. He's trying to make this argument that the cops owe me money for all of the pain and suffering they put me through. He told us it.
Be hospitalized, and finally, the police officers come there. I pretty much begged them to get my water, which has 2 supplements in there that could have helped my health. They refused to, because they're like, "What if there's something in there?" And I know what they're trying to indicate is that, like, there's cyanide or something in there, and I'm gonna drink some of it and off myself, because they were onto this insane theory that I was there to cause harm. And so they refused.
Yeah, this is also a standard operating procedure for cops, that they can't just give you a substance that they don't know what it is.
hour.
Like, I actually had a cop tell me, like, yeah, we have a policy. We never, ever, ever, ever
of this torturous experience.
will drink anything anybody ever offers us, because we don't know
when I
what's in
explained
it.
to them what was going on, they said we could take you to the hospital. I'm like, rather than take me to the hospital, what if you just get me my water? And they refused to do so. And they gave me, one of the police officers put water in front of my mouth and poured it in there and stuff. Eventually, they did give me my water bottle, but that was hours later. So, at this juncture, I'm in the back of the truck, and I'm demanding
that word juncture again, his vocab word,
that I get my one phone call, which he refuses. He also refuses to tell me what's going on. He does ask me, well, he does come up
it doesn't really work that way.
That, and this is again reflected by the body cameras, which we're going to be doing a FOIA request on, or I should say a FOIA demand. There was another avenue to this, which is internal affairs report that I was told it was a way to go and attain those body cam recordings.
They're going to complain to internal affairs. This guy's watched too many movies.
This police officer came up to me and he basically said that, look, we just want to make sure your law firms are properly registered, that they're lawfully purchased. You know, I say sure. I tell them the exact locations of the firearms. I tell them they're welcome to grab the firearms, and I have nothing to hide. And this was done under the guise of they just need to run serials to make sure that this is part of the National Registry and that it is indeed my firearms. Well, next thing these guys do is that they completely ransack everything in my car. And when I say ransack, I had 3 suitcases in there, including clothes, including crucial medication and supplements, including my...
Hey, by the way, if you're taking your shotgun everywhere you go for protection, what good is it unloaded in your trunk?
And to be very clear, I wasn't there
or anything else.
Media. I was there as a special guest, and I wasn't taking any of that equipment in there because I was not there as media. But I had been in Los Angeles.
I'm here for my safety. So I bought these guns and never used them, never trained with them, never practiced with them. Just threw them in my trunk. And I just drive everywhere. They're like my security blanket.
Obtaining content. And then I went to Coachella. So I just happened to have this stuff in my car, which is all my equipment, hard drives, and all the things that I've stated. And so at this juncture, they go into such forensic detail with tearing my car apart. There's bomb sniffing dogs there. They're looking at the serial numbers. They're opening up everything in my car.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because Trump had been,
because obviously they were on this.
He'd been through 2 assassination attempts in the past 2 months. They're kind of trying to be cautious.
Mind you, the right thing I believe to have been done is when I asked the police officer, hey, I have firearms. And I actually said, like, when I first drove up there, I said, look, if it's an issue, I could do a U-turn and go away because, I understand, because I could tell from his reaction that he wasn't reacting the way our Nevada police would have.
Yeah, the right thing to do would have been to leave your firearms at home.
And I said, look, man, I could just turn around and go, man, I don't even need to go to this rally, but they chose to have me apprehended and arrested, right? So they ransacked the crap out of
Yeah, once they catch you with contraband,
it was clear that this was an attempt to
they probably thought he was taking drugs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because carrying a firearm.
The problem is once you get pulled over by a cop, you can't just say, "Hey guys, let's do this over. I'm just going to drive back to the direction. Everything will be fine. Pretend this never happened."
During this time, I hear this arresting officer call me a maggot and one of those dumb Trump people to a female officer, and he didn't know that I had overheard what he said. And at this point, it becomes very clear that this arresting
Do you believe this story?
Goal was to make an example of a Trump supporter.
I guess we'll find out when the footage comes out. I contend this did not happen.
That was very clear by his behavior, by how he spoke with me. And so they tear my car apart, and clearly they find nothing. Then this arresting police officer comes back and says that they're going to throw me in jail and that they're going to impound my car. Tow truck comes eventually, takes my car with all my equipment, my clothes, my medication. And this clothes that you're seeing me wear, the jeans that I'm wearing, I've been wearing for now, it's the 3rd day. After spending 4 hours in a car, at least 1 to 1.5 hours of which was a sauna. So you can imagine Coachella, I'm standing outside sweating, I'm inside a car, I'm sweating. So
everyone else is to blame is also a tell of a psychopath.
And so
it's a tactic.
They take everything.
Because you can't be suspicious of somebody you pity.
Now, this arresting
That's why they always do it.
Says the Secret Service and the FBI want to speak with you. Okay? And this is when his narrative started, I guess, falling apart. Because he told me that, there's a serious situation, there's been assassination attempts on Trump, blah, 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 and they're going to investigate this, they're going to interrogate you, blah, 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 right?
Good.
And so now we're about 3.5 hours into this ordeal, I would approximate. And this arresting officer drives me to an RV where the feds and the Secret Service are stationed. Now, what occurs to me is that the fulcrum in all this event is this one arresting officer. He's the one passing information to the feds, to the Secret Service, and he's the one coming back to me and relaying this information, although it was very clear that he was skewing this information. So, and I'll explain why. So we go to this RV, he steps out of the car, and at this point, as hot as it was before, now it's freezing inside the car. Just a little detail, I'm talking like, and by the way, I'm in sandals and a shirt because I showed up for desert weather, and I'm in this freezing cold car. I would approximate now it's 6:30-ish or so p.m. He walks
The
out of the
car
car.
was
He
on
has a
fire
conversation
before. Now it's
with
freezing
individuals that are
cold.
Secret Service and feds. And he's in this conversation, which I'm watching through this kind of grid that they have in the back of the trucks, you know, that kind of prison grid looking thing. I could tell from the reaction of the Secret Service and feds that they're just not kind of buying his story. They seem very disinterested. And what I would also assume, and you know, all of our research, the FOIAs, the body cams, all that stuff's going to reveal this, because this is going to turn into a major lawsuit, and I'll tell you how major this lawsuit is in a moment.
Oh, here we go.
So in this
major lawsuit incoming,
right? And I could tell that they're not buying his bullshit. I could tell that, you know, these are, you know, you have smart officers, you have smart authorities, and then you have not very smart ones. And I could tell that these guys were a lot sharper than this arresting, you know, fool, I would say. Then he comes in the car and he says, well, they're going to come to the police station and interview you. Okay. By the way, at this point, we're, you know, now 4 hours into it, and I've been asking to speak with a lawyer, get my one phone call, and he's refused to do so. He's refused to do so, which, by the way, I never got my one phone call. They did not allow it. Okay. So I then
didn't know the magic words, buddy.
To the police station, and I'm taken into a room where essentially it's a 6-foot glass barrier between this holding area and where all the police are seated in front of their computers, right?
The magic word. I want to speak to my attorney now. Am I free to leave? I do not consent to saying anything, and then you have to shut up.
But again, over and over again, this officer refuses. And at this point, since I've, you know, I told you they let me have my water with my supplements in there. Now I'm feeling a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm feeling the savage come out, because I know what this guy's doing. Okay.
The savage coming out.
And so I stand up, and by the way, I'm chained to a bench. So when I say I stand up, I mean I pretty much stand up in place, and I say, listen, man, this penal code right here, and I read him the penal code. How immediately upon request, I'm supposed to get my one phone call, which I was going to call my lawyer, right? And I say it over and over again. And the FOIA request and the body cameras will reflect that while I was in that holding cell, I'd approximate an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I was repeatedly asking for my one phone call, and this so-called officer was refusing to give it to me, making every single excuse. And so then I turned to the other police officers and I said, listen, guys, because now my brain's coming back, okay? And I understand
you're
law
talking to the
much
cop
better than most documentary makers and content creators, because I've actually studied law. And in fact, that morning I was listening to law classes, which are available on my computer and verifiable before I even drove out.
Oh boy, this guy's got law classes on his computer.
And the reason why I do this stuff is because through doing a lot of content, I realized that, you know, this officer who I believe is a corrupt and criminal individual who's operating under the color of law, a lot of them exist out there. And after having seen multiple,
you'll hear him say this phrase over and over again, operating under the color of law.
My life deeply. And there's a story to that too, because one of the reasons
that's how
sovereign citizens because of immense court corruption by a woke Canadian judge. I won't get into the details of what happened there, but at this point, I'm going to be sharing all these stories because I want you to know where I'm coming from and why.
Oh boy, he's got stories of corrupt courts.
Very healthy and rising 6-figure salary in Hollywood to do this stuff where it's very difficult to make anywhere.
I was so rich, but poor me and my sacrifice. I brought you guys the truth.
To making TV shows and reality shows, and again, verifiable in contracts, verifiable in emails, all verifiable, right? So,
oh yeah, I can verify all of your contract and emails right here.
Speak with a lawyer, but nonetheless keeping me detained. And at this juncture, I see.
Yeah, that's how that works. You hear that?
The Secret Service.
You said, yeah, they said I could speak with my lawyer, but I'm still being detained. Yeah, that's how that works. You don't just get up and leave before your lawyer gets there.
Officer, come, and this arresting officer takes him into the room in the corner. They have a private conversation, which I approximate lasted about 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes. So then the arresting officer comes out with the Secret Service agent and the federal agent, and they come there and they come up to me and they say, you know, one of them says, sir, you know, do you mind answering some questions? And I say, look, and this is, by the way, again, 100% reflected by the cameras within that station. I say to them, you know, I'm perfectly fine answering any question, but could we do it like this? I haven't had my phone call yet, and now we're 6 hours into this ordeal or more, and these are all approximations. And, you know, I'd like to tell you everything, but let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone. This is a very traumatic experience that I've had due to this so-called police officer. And what I like to do is I like to have you guys sit down, and I want to call my attorney. And to my attorney, I'm going to recite the point-by-point story, just like I'm reciting to you guys right now. And you'll hear that whole story, and we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because I won't have to go through telling that traumatic story twice. And then you could ask me any question you want, and I will be perfectly willing to answer any question that you have. And that includes, for the press members that have contacted me, I've actually put my phone on airplane mode because I've gotten 1,000 phone calls. I mean,
this is not the best way to say I want to speak to my lawyer first. Yeah, I'll speak to. I'll talk to you guys while I tell my lawyer the story. The lawyer just says, "Shut up right now."
Right? And so,
shut up right now.
I tell that to the Secret Service and the feds, and they look at me, and then they look at the officer, and they walk away. They walk away, they go inside the room, and then the arresting officer comes out. He tells me, we're taking you to the jail. He's taking me to the jail. I say, wait a minute, man. You told me the Secret Service wanted to talk with me and the feds wanted to talk with me, which from the point that they apprehended me, I was—
You just told them you wouldn't talk to them. That's why they left.
And the Secret Service as being higher IQ individuals and not driven by some sort of agenda of this incredibly corrupt police officer. And so I wanted to speak with them because I knew that if I speak with them, they're going to realize that there's nothing nefarious that I'm here for, and that this knucklehead over here, this so-called police officer, is really doing this to make a political point, to damage me, to cause me harm, for his agenda or the agenda of whoever else was involved in these crimes.
No, it's because—
I say that clearly, these were crimes against me.
See, here's the thing, folks. If you get detained by cops and you say, I'm not talking to you, I want to talk to my lawyer right now, they're not going to say, okay, well, we'll just wait here by the side of the road for your lawyer, or we'll wait here by the Secret Service van for your lawyer. They'll take you to jail, which is like their home, and we'll talk to you, and you can talk to your lawyer in jail. That's the way that goes. They have you on possession of an illegal firearm and having a high-capacity magazine, which is unfortunately the law in California, but that's what it is.
Police officers operating under the color of law.
Yeah.
And so
under the color of law.
When this arresting police
as a sovereign
officer—
citizen, folks—
they don't want to speak with you anymore. They're all good. They said it's fine, but I'm still taking you to jail. Again, this is reflected in the body cameras, which is very interesting that what I'm being called is the third potential assassin of President Donald Trump, and Secret Service and the feds don't want to interview me, that they don't see any value in interviewing me. I mean, think about that. Think about that. And understand the degree of flat out bullshit that's involved in that. Because if I was a serious threat, do you think the feds and the Secret Service would just be like, no, we don't want to interview him. It's all good with us.
But keep in mind,
No,
this guy hasn't talked to the cops
and the
yet.
Secret Service realized that this knucklehead over here, this arresting police officer, is digging himself a deep—
Why do they think he has guns in his trunk?
And you know what? They did the right thing because they left this as a state issue. Because, you know, they knew that this guy was making—
Hey, officers, I'm here for the Trump trial. I got guns in my trunk. So what's the problem? What's the problem?
They would not be
America
and just let me be if even 1% of what this arresting police officer was insinuating. At this juncture, this arresting police officer takes me to jail. I get fingerprinted. I get my mugshot taken, which honestly, I was like, kind of like, part of me, as distraught as I was, I'm like, cool, I got my own mugshot now. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm in great company, you know? Apparently, when you try to do the right thing in this country—
I'm just like Trump, guys. I'm a martyr.
You know, so
I'm a martyr for the cause.
I'm thinking back in my head, I'm like, I wonder how my mugshot's going to look against, you know, next to President Trump's mugshot, you know?
Hey, Mr. Trump, will you sign my mugshot?
Where I was for about 6 hours. I was placed next to, or a few doors down from, what seemed like a mentally ill individual who was banging on the walls and doors for the entirety of the time I was there, or almost the entirety of the time I was there. And by the way, I still haven't got my phone call. There was a phone in the room, but when I tried to call, and this is also evidence, by the way, my friend Steve, who will say that I tried to call him and the phone wasn't working. He couldn't even hear me. Then I walked to this buzzer thing and I buzzed him to let him know, hey guys, the phone's not working. I still haven't had my phone call. We're 8 hours into this nonsense now, and that's ignored completely. They don't even—
So they gave you a phone call and you didn't call a lawyer, you called Steve.
So they bring another gentleman, you know, tattoos all over himself, look like, you know, MS-13 type of gangster guy, you know, and I'm wondering, like, what the hell am I doing here amongst these individuals, you know? Like,
we're almost through it, guys. We're almost through it.
And I don't even have a misdemeanor. There's never been a history of any crime that I've done or even been accused of. And I'm sitting here in a jail cell because I'm a Trump supporter, because I'm a lawful carrier.
No, that's not the reason why you're in jail, buddy.
In California, in a jail cell, with what seems like one incredibly mentally ill individual, a few doors down, and a guy across from me that looks like he's an MS-13 gangster, and was, you know, doing things like shadow boxing, and, you know, took his shirt off and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm released around 1:15 a.m. They give me some papers to sign, and they say if I don't sign these papers, then I can't be released. So I actually have this in front of me, and if you look at it, here, right there.
There it is.
I sign it, my signature under duress. I sign everything under duress because they told me that unless I sign these papers,
that's what sovereign citizens
would not be released. So I signed it under duress, which is a nifty little trick I've learned, as well as other things, just being an avid studier of law. And
yeah, an avid studier of law sure is. By the way, the reason why you can't leave until you sign that paperwork is because that's notice to you. That's like saying, yeah, you know, if you commit a murder, you can avoid going to trial and going to jail, going to prison, if you just simply refuse service on the criminal documents. It's a summons, you retard. It's a summons. You can't just say to the cop who's right there in front of you, I'm refusing service of this legal summons. But don't worry, guys. He's a sovereign citizen. He's an expert. He's an expert at this law stuff.
Really trying to have a protection mechanism against these monsters like the arresting officer. who try to violate your rights.
This monster
Give
of
me
an
a
officer.
ticket. That's what I just showed you over here. They give me a ticket from the sheriff's county, okay, which is interesting because they usually don't give you a ticket if they're accusing you of some kind of felony. What they ticketed me for, and this is where my ignorance about guns, I guess, caused damage here, is that they ticket me for, here, loaded firearm. So just to explain that, the two guns that I have, one's a shotgun, one's a Glock. The shotgun's never been loaded, and yes, that is verifiable. That has never had a cartridge put in there, right?
Then why do you have
Glock
it?
is loaded, and frankly, it's loaded, and in Nevada, that's not been an issue. I did not know that in California, you have to separate the mag from the gun. I learned that lesson, I guess, now. And then the other thing that I know
folks, like
about is, again, the Glock
any
is never
gun
been shot,
safety
which is
class,
verifiable.
first
I've
thing
owned
to tell you is
since
make sure you know your local laws.
and never been fired once, because frankly, I am like, I'm like a kindergarten student when it comes to guns. I just have never shot a gun. I've never gone to the shooting range. The only time where, due to a knee-jerk reaction because of death threats that were sent to my house, that I'd ever interacted with guns was buying the gun. And then,
Well, it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction because 2 years later you're still driving around with these firearms. This is the thing, folks. This is where the story absolutely makes zero sense. A story that doesn't make sense is not true. I don't believe he got death threats in the first place, frankly, because that I got Scrabble tiles in the mail story, for what reason, from whom, is complete and utter BS. If he actually had any kind of real sense of death threat, then you would not just buy a gun, you'd, learn how to use it. Or maybe if, as he just said, maybe in the heat of the moment, he bought the gun. And then when the moment subsides, you put the gun away. You separate the gun from the ammo, because a Glock, if you guys don't know, a Glock doesn't, it has internal safeties, but a Glock does not have like a safety button. It doesn't have a cocking lever, nothing like that. When the round is in the chamber and the gun is loaded, you pull the trigger, the gun fires, which for an absolute novice firearms owner is like, I better be very careful with this loaded gun. And especially, again, inexperienced people start thinking things like, if the gun gets knocked around or something in the trunk falls into the, within the trigger guard, something could cause it to go off. These are concerns ordinary people have for handguns in general and Glocks especially, because they don't have any safety mechanism on them. Like I said, they have internals, but they don't have a button you press or a lever or anything like that. So this guy wants you to believe he bought guns 2 years ago, never fired them ever, takes them everywhere he goes, including Trump rallies, always tells the cops he has them, and nobody until this one fateful day at Coachella did the cops ever raise an eyebrow that he was going into the Trump rally with a loaded gun in his trunk. Pure BS. All right, let's finish this up.
I open carry in Nevada sometimes for safety reasons, but the gun's never.
I open carry in Nevada.
And this is another fact I found out that I didn't know about. I guess the mag was a double mag or something. I had no idea what's a double mag or a single.
I carry the gun everywhere I go.
To the gun store, which
I carry it openly.
The guy selling me the gun had a shirt that said, "Do not."
I keep my loaded handgun right by my side. Never fired it once.
Funny, having moved from California.
Why'd I be training?
And looking like a California guy, looking like I just rolled out of Hollywood and stuff, I had to tell him, I'm not one of those California guys. I'm actually a hardcore patriot. I don't believe in this woke nonsense. And that I get.
How about you tell them I'm a hardcore patriot?
Two lines of bullets, I guess. I remember specifically calling a friend of mine who's a gunsmith. I asked him about it. He said, "Yeah, man, get the one with the double instead of the single." And that was the last I remember any distinction between double and single. So the thing that they cited me on was basically that. Here's the ticket. If you guys want to take a snapshot, right there. And what they cited me on was those two things. That I had a loaded firearm, which is the Glock, and I guess one of the mags was double mag instead of a single mag. And I had no idea that in California that's a bad thing. Certainly in Nevada, that's never been a bad thing. Certainly in Nevada, I've told countless numbers of cops, or something close to a dozen, because not only when I go to Trump rallies, but a few times I've been pulled over. The cops ask me, "Hey, do you have any firearms?" I told them things like, "Yeah, if I have it in the glove box or I have it in the back." They thanked me for telling it. Is it loaded, sir? Yes, it's loaded. But most smart cops could realize that I'm not of the ilk to cause harm, especially when cops pull me over, and the first thing I do is put my hands out the window, because I've learned from experience that that gives them a sense of comfort. They know that they can see your hands clearly, your hands aren't concealed somewhere, and it's all about behaving in a way that. Hey, I just typed into Google, is Nevada a constitutional carry state? Answer: no. Nevada is not a constitutional carry state. So when you tell the cops, "Hey, don't worry, I got the loaded gun in the glove box," which means you are carrying it,
and you don't have your CPL, whatever they call it in Nevada, you've just told the cops you're breaking the law. Hey, cops, I got a loaded gun in my car. Where, in the trunk? Nope, right in the glove box, right next to me. I can just reach over here, pull it out of the glove box. Okay, so you're carrying. Where's your CPL? Oh, I never got one. This story is a lie. This story is a lie.
That gives them a sense of security, because there's all sorts of bad people out there that would cause harm to a police officer, you know? And so they give me a ticket. I leave the police station, you know. Long and short, an adventure begins where I came and find a room. This guy's Ubering me around. I'm trying to find where my truck is, because I'm trying to retrieve it. They don't even give me the address of the truck company. They don't even give me a phone number. They say, oh, the name of the truck company is so-and-so. And so, tow truck company. So I have to now research.
By the way, this legal expert who had the presence of mind to know I got to call my lawyer when I get arrested has just released a 75-minute video of him incriminating himself. Sure, his lawyer's going to be happy to know all about that.
I can't get a hold of the person. We actually show up to the lot with the Uber. Again, all evidence across my Uber history. Also evidenced by the guy that drove me. I'm sure he could be tracked down. He'll tell the whole story about how I was pretty distraught by this whole experience, and told him exactly what was going on. We had a nice little laugh about corrupt cops and the history of hip hop. And he filmed that whole interaction, by the way. So he has actually a camera in his car where I tell him this whole story as he's driving me around from the tow truck yard to a 7-Eleven where I had to get food, because
this will help you.
Over at that point, I don't know, noon was the last time I ate. So we're talking about 13 hours in now, where I'm pretty much running on coffee, burning a hole in my stomach. And go to motel to motel to all over the place until we actually find a vacant room. I end up in this place that what I would describe as a bottom barrel, like one of those like 2-hour joints. Honestly, I spent half the night hearing sounds of intercourse coming from next door, loud. I almost want to give that guy an award and stuff, because damn, it was like this was a marathon, But that's been my experience, and I can't get my truck back. I can't get my equipment back. There's at least $250,000 worth of my equipment and an intellectual property in my car. I can't get my medication back, which, I can't say I'm feeling great right now, because every day I take supplements to, help my health and stuff, and I haven't had access to that. They refuse to give it to me. They're unlawfully holding all my equipment, because fine, you impounded the truck, and by the way, I can't get my truck back till Tuesday.
But I don't know that you're the legal expert on this,
I'm
buddy.
stuck in this area.
It is often very difficult to get yourself back from the cops.
Uber and getting the hell out of here, because I don't feel safe with the kind of things that these guys have said. I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe with the mistakes they've made. I think they understand the liability that they put themselves under, and I believe that this nonsense article that they put out is part of probably mitigating their liability. Although the lawyers I've spoken with, the authorities I've spoken with, have told me the following. So while I was at the police station, I want to know one thing, and how that ties into the lawyer aspect. I'm one for instinct. I feel like my instinct has served me right. When my blood sugar was better regulated and I entered I guess what you call savage mode, I told this officer specifically, based upon the information I had at that moment, I said, this is going to cost your badge, and this is on the security camera of the police department. I said, this is going to cost your badge, and this is going to cost your police department, at least $2 million. This is what I told them.
Oh, right? Good. Right in the cops. They love that.
They've done this and gone viral with it. That represents me as the third potential assassin.
I like the number he pulled up, $2 million.
Trump. We're talking in the hundreds of millions right now. We're talking about investigations. And what I want to investigate is multiple things. First of all, this arresting police officer, I believe it is my hunch that he has a deal with the tow truck company where they're splitting the proceeds of unlawfully impounding my truck, all my equipment, my medication, my clothing. Well,
you should file a lawsuit. So, they love it when you file lawsuits based on your hunch.
You think that way? Well, again, if you research my history, once you've done, 800 something interviews, produced something like $200 million worth of content, interacted with so many individuals in the know of what's happening on the streets, what happens with corrupt cops, this is a regular thing. I believe this guy had a payola thing going on, and that $3,000, $4,000 that this nightmare is going to cost me this proceeds of that are going to be split, I believe, when they investigate what's going on.
In terms of the way to drag the tow truck driver into this,
they've already released like a series of lies. For example, that I had a fake pass, which is easily verifiable that it's not fake, easily verifiable. I have email evidence, multiple emails directed to me giving me the pass. They said something like I had a fake press pass. I never walked in there with a press pass. Their footage will reveal. I told them I am a member of the press, and I started talking about that once I started feeling nervous about the intentions of what was going on, to let them know that, I have some teeth, guys. I have some teeth. So if you think like I'm some schmo that you're gonna knock over and just walk all over, you have it really, really wrong.
You guys believe this story? I don't have a press pass. I have a special pass. You don't recognize it because it's different from all the other passes that are coming to this place. It's a special pass. It's my special all access pass. I don't call it all access pass. It's some kind of special pass that the cops didn't know about for some reason.
And so
no one else has one, but he does.
I wasn't there on their press pass. That's a lie. The evidence will reflect that it was a special invitation. And pretty much.
Hey, you guys get if you guys ever been to a Trump rally, you get that, you have to sign up for that on like Eventbrite or whatever. You start getting these text messages from 88022. You ever get a special invitation from the Trump campaign? It's not a regular invitation. It's a special invitation to the Trump campaign event.
Where they release is like outright lies, which now brings up the question, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that when it's clear that the Secret Service and the FBI couldn't care less? Like they didn't believe this police officer? Why would you do that? Why would the police department as an institution do such a press release that would put them in hundreds of millions of dollars of liability? That's the question.
Oh, sure
why
they
would
will.
do that? Why would they do that? You know
Sure
what
they
the answer
have.
to that is? I mean, I kind of started off with this story, you know? The answer to that is because, frankly, the agenda of America Happens has never been about a political party, has never
We're almost
been
done,
about
folks.
any specific individuals. It's always been about the Constitution and the lawful course and ridding our government and police departments and judicial ranks of corrupt individuals that operate under the color of law, that are basically criminals using their power under unlawful circumstances for unlawful reasons, right? So, you know, I guess I could end this in saying that, you know, this police department, this police officer has created quite a predicament. I am concerned that, you know, I think to themselves, if they realize the calamity they're under, they literally created hundreds of millions of dollars worth of liability, slandering my name as a potential assassin. I mean, that is just
He thinks
insane.
threatening to sue the
Absolutely
cops will get him out of these charges.
And you'd wonder
I don't
how
think it's a wise
these
move.
officers could be so inexperienced and so foolish to think something like that is okay and put their entire department in jeopardy for such unlawful actions.
What he's trying to do here
So I end this,
is get MAGA to attack the
everything I've
cops.
heard coming from these police departments is an absolute lie.
Aaron says he got a
100%
special
true,
invitation for sending
verifiable by
$25
evidence.
for your chance to win.
And frankly, you know, I like to look at things like a blessing.
Yeah, but this is
right?
what he's
You know,
actually
since
trying
I
to do.
started,
He's actually
I've always
trying
been a
to incite
democrat.
hatred against this police
I've always tried to
department
follow in the path of
by
Jesus
Trump
Christ.
supporters.
And what I will say is,
He's trying to summon his own personal army.
you know, in doing that, I've started to look at the world very differently, especially as I've gotten closer to Christ over the last 2-3 years doing the work.
Oh, here we go, guys. He's talking about his faith.
And frankly,
He's clamming up.
some of these difficult moments are actually.
I love God so much.
Because
Clearly, I'm a godly man.
I was never one for the money, but I certainly think that the mistakes these officers made in operating under the color of law, I mean, frankly, just made me an ungodly amount of money. It made me an ungodly amount of money. Nothing that I was seeking. I wasn't seeking to do this and be on camera.
I'm just
Frankly,
so
I never wanted
talented
to be
and special and
The only
rich.
reason I did that is to
And I
forward
walked away
the
from it
agenda of
all
America
because I
Happens.
love my
myself
country
on
so
camera. I
much.
was always my entire career a behind the camera person, and that's verifiable by the evidence. And I just never thought that this is how our network was going to get a lot of attention, you know? So I am seeing beyond the silver lining. I'm seeing the work of Christ in this moment. I truly am. Because what they did was a gross violation of our constitutional rights. To think that they think that in California,
At what point?
they could have a whole series of different laws in our constitution, and I know this is going to draw a lot of attention to that fact of why they have these silly laws where you can't have double mags, you know, only single mags, and you can't.
Oh,
have
yeah.
loaded, you know, it's like
This
the right to bear
guy's
arms.
story
It's fucking pretty clear.
is going to do for
Right to
gun
bear
owners in
arms.
California
Okay, not right to bear arms
what
if,
all the gun
but
rights
that's what they've done
activism in
California. This is gonna
California
bring a
over
lot of
decades and
attention to this
decades
law. It's gonna
couldn't
bring a lot
do.
of attention to this lawsuit, and it's going to bring a lot of attention to corrupt officials operating under the color of law. One other thing that I want to state, I did do one interview thus far, even though I've been contacted by, every press outlet out there. And frankly, I have this phone on airplane mode because I wouldn't even be able to get 1 minute into this without phone calls. And
You shouldn't do interviews, buddy.
the
You're
accusation
digging your
is
own
that
grave.
I am part of an anti-government right-wing group. And what I told the reporter is what I will tell you right now. That is a nonsensical statement.
Here we go.
Government is an inanimate object. Government is not. It's not possible for government to be evil. It's not possible for government to be good. It's not possible for government to harm people. It's not possible for government to do nefarious things, good things. It is an inanimate object, like this bottle right here.
Yeah. You see, guys, I can't be a member of an anti-government organization because there's no such thing as having a value judgment about a government. It's just like a bottle of water. This is absurd and silly as saying that someone could be. I'm not anti-government because nobody can be anti-government, guys. There's no such thing as being pro-government or anti-government. That's just it's just so silly.
So the term, I'm part of a right-wing anti-government group, is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. Okay? So that's one.
I'm only supported by the way you've been
The other
talking about
statement
for the
that I
past
made is that I'm a
25
sovereign
minutes.
citizen. And again, these are the statements of people that are simply not educated and not smart enough to understand what they're saying. Because if you search the root words and the lineage of words like sovereign, which I believe dates back to, sovereign and citizen date back, potentially a few thousand years. If you actually look at what does sovereign and citizen mean, they're like opposites. It's a misnomer. It's something
Yeah. Hey, guys. This guy has been doing lots and lots of research on the meaning of the words sovereign and citizen. He's not a sovereign citizen.
Put out there by obviously individuals that want to, it's like how they used to call people conspiracy theorists, which now we realize it's actually conspiracy truthers, seems like conspiracy theorists have been right about a whole bunch of things. So if you look at the root word of sovereign and citizen, they're opposites. So it's a ridiculous statement. So they've accused me of two things that are not possible. They're not even possible, okay?
It's impossible to be anti-government. Impossible.
And as I said, government's an inanimate object, not capable of feelings, damage, evil, good, none of it. And if you look at the root words of
yeah, guys, government can do no evil. So it's just an inanimate object.
So that's my statements about.
I've got my phone here. I've got Raheem Kassam's shitty book here, and over there there's a government. It's just an inanimate object. You can pick it up and throw it in the garbage.
About that, I'm posting this on the America Happens Network for all of you to see, and this is my statement. And I verify here that what I've said, unlike what these clowns have done, is 100% verifiable and true. And they made a big mistake by drawing attention to this matter. And I will leave you with that. Thank you.
All right, we're done. Thank God. Well, let's look at a few more things here and see if we can piece together what this really might be here. The question I posed in the title of this video: would-be assassin, dim-witted patriot, or ... question mark. Now, I don't actually think he was a would-be assassin, obviously, because if he did, he wouldn't have told the cops about his guns. Probably wouldn't have chosen those guns either. Those aren't very good guns. Well, maybe a Glock, maybe, if he thinks he can get within, spitting distance of President Trump. But, there's a reason why the two guys that got arrested for trying to kill the president both were using rifles. Anyway, just so you guys, Aaron's Rod mentioned this when we were watching the clip. This is him talking about, this is him on frankspeech.com. That is, of course, Mike Lindell's network. I'm pretty sure I'm correct about that. I almost said Frank Lindell because it's called Frank Speech, but I guess it's Mike Lindell's network. And this is actually a video from over a month, not quite a month ago, but before the incident the other day. So here's the clip.
So it's very interesting. P. Diddy actually owes me $30,000 from 2005 because I'd worked with him before as a music video director, and he ripped me off just like he's ripped off so many people. I mean, the amount of people that I would meet that had songs ripped off from him, including a famous artist like Mace, by the way. He's been very...
Okay, we've seen enough of him again. P. Diddy owes me $30,000 for all of the video work I did for him. Sure he does. This guy does get around, by the way. Scott McMahon found this clip of him with Mike Flynn, which is interesting. We'll talk more about that in a moment. And here he is with Ivan Raiklin. Ivan Raiklin is the guy that has been, he calls himself Trump's retribution chief or something like that. He's made multiple statements about how we got to really pursue people, even violently, suggestively, people that have gone after Trump. Now, this might just be because he's going every which way in Trump circles that he can. This is, by the way, a comment someone posted on X from Jacqueline Sweet, verified account, investigative journalist, Mother Jones, The Intercept, Guardian, Politico. So a left-wing reporter. Here's a bit about his custody battle and bank lawsuits. Miller, formerly named Vem Yanovkian, was embroiled in a nasty custody case with the ex-wife. Judge awarded her $150,000 for years of cyberbullying the mother on websites, YouTube videos, online petitions, and emails. You don't say. You wouldn't. I couldn't imagine after watching this guy thinking he might be a little bit self-obsessed. I'm amazed. Accused of creating an online campaign with his own father's help to unseat a judge in the case and harass witnesses. He even registered an LLC with his father called Unseat Injustice, Inc. in Nevada. Also had his, got a passport under a third name, Vem Steinberg, for reasons unclear. So he didn't mention this, but it's been talked about in the articles. The guy has multiple passports. And he says, well, that's because I was born in Canada. So I'm a Canadian citizen and an American citizen. Okay. Why do you have them with you? Were you going to Canada the next day? Why would you carry both passports around? You only need one. I have a passport. It sits in my drawer if I'm not going abroad. My license is enough. I can just drive around all of America with just my regular old driver's license. So, the guy shows up to the Trump rally with a loaded handgun in his trunk and a shotgun and multiple passports with, it sounds like, possibly conflicting names on them, and a special pass because he's special. So a lot of this argument's going towards dim-witted Patriot, and certainly he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But I will at least suggest one minor possibility here, because he has now been seen with Ivan Raiklin and Michael Flynn, who, remember, Mike Flynn organized an effort to recruit radicalized patriots to go to the National Republican Convention to fight their way into the Republican Party, so that in the event that perhaps Trump was, say, I don't know, assassinated right before the National Convention, Mike Flynn would be in position to become the Republican nominee for president. Now, even if Trump had been assassinated, I don't think that Mike Flynn would have gotten the nomination, but that was their plan. That was the plan that Ivan Raiklin and others were carrying out. So there is at least the possibility, because he had mentioned these other people he's talking to and these special press passes. What makes him think he's special? He never, for all of that yammering on and on endlessly about how special he was, he never told us why the Trump campaign would think he's special. Seems like just some idiot with a podcast. That makes him no better than me. You think the Trump campaign would give me backstage passes to every Trump rally I've ever been to? You don't think there's actually lots of Americans who would love to be able to go backstage at all of Trump's rallies? Lorraine Sheldon on X says, sorry, I just felt like I lost IQ points listening to him. What a wacko. He is a wacko. But I will suggest there's at least one possibility here, one other possibility, besides him just being a complete idiot. Because being a complete idiot doesn't explain why he lied about having guns. Doesn't explain why he has guns. Another possibility is he is what's called a patsy. Goes to the parking lot, walks on in. Didn't bring his guns. He never shot a gun in his life. But now, someone knows that he's got loaded gun, well, at least one loaded weapon in the trunk of a car in a parking lot right at a Trump rally. Just saying, folks, it's at least a possibility to consider. We'll see what happens when he gets all of his amazing information in FOIAs, which, by the way, folks, in a criminal case, you don't need to FOIA. You don't FOIA the records. It comes to you as part of discovery. You don't even have to pay for it. It's not a freedom of information request nor a freedom of information demand. It's called discovery. Anyway, if you ever find yourself in a legal situation, don't do what this guy did. Shut your mouth and call your lawyer, and don't blab about it on the internet. That, I think, is where we have to leave it for today, because the whole thing is just a mystery. However, I will say, people defending this guy, like Raheem, get a life, guys. This guy is, on his best day, a moron and an embarrassment to the campaign, an embarrassment to MAGA, by the way. Why do you think all these people in the media are calling him for his story? Thank God he only took one interview. Sure, there'll be more. There's plenty of stories coming out from him every day. That will be probably well, who knows, unless they get something more, but the media will be talking about this incident for some time to come. So just bookmark that thought, that this guy has some known connections to Ivan Raiklin and Michael Flynn. And shows up at a Trump rally, sovereign citizen with a gun in his trunk. He's never fired, never trained with. Remember the words of Judge Judy: when a story doesn't make sense, it's not true. I got a death threat for my incredible, courageous reporting in 2022. They actually mailed me Scrabble tiles that spelled the word dead. And then, so I went to the gun store, got a Glock, got me a Glock, just like Kamala. You don't know anything about handguns, just say the word Glock, and all your problems are solved. Glocks are great guns, though. They really are. But, get a shotgun. You need to specify shotgun. Remington, Mossberg, whatever. Just, it's a shotgun. They're all the same. And throw it in your trunk. Take him with you everywhere you go for 2 years. Open carry in Nevada. Just walking around down the street with a loaded Glock on my hip, exposed for the world to see. You know, don't want to take that CPL class. I just open carry everywhere I go. No training. And so wherever I go to Trump rallies, just show up the Trump rally with my guns. Leave them in the trunk. Of course, I wouldn't bring the guns into the Trump rally. I'll just leave them in my trunk just for safekeeping. Just so if anyone, needs a gun, they know where to find my car. if they know what kind of car I drive, I don't know. I'm sure this guy with this podcast who is constantly name dropping, isn't known to anybody else on planet Earth. Not to anybody at all. Not to General Mike Flynn. Not to Ivan Raiklin. He's been on a show. Doesn't have their numbers in his phone. There's with General Flynn again. There's with Steve Bannon. There's with Roger Stone. I like Roger Stone. I'm not suggesting anything about Roger Stone. But yeah, Scott says it appears the whole thing sprung from the imagination of one dirty Dem cop. I don't believe this. I beg to differ with Scott's analysis here. I love his journalism. But I don't believe this guy appears credible. I think he appears to be a complete pathological liar. I think he's a self-obsessed name dropper, a nutcase. And, between the pity ploy, which is a sign of a psychopath, constantly name dropping, self-obsession, these are all tactics of a psychopath. So, would-be assassins not entirely off the menu. Although it'd be really weird to just leave your guns in your car. It's weird to tell the cops you've got your guns in your car, but maybe that part of the story isn't true either. Because as far as I can see, folks, all we've got is this guy's story. And the police, who initially said we might have stopped the third Trump assassination, which maybe they did, are now being quiet, which is what cops usually do when investigations are still pending. They usually avoid talking too much. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens after the election. This is when this is going to come out. So, strange case. It's a strange case. We shall see. But I would not write this guy off as just a nice guy who's doing what he thought was the right thing. Because if he was doing what he thought was the right thing, he would have left his guns at home. All right, guys, that will do it for us for tonight. Until next time, thanks for Audio for Liberty. Peace.